Okay, yeah, we're good to go. So you're originally from South Carolina?
Charleston, South Carolina, born and raised.
Okay. And so you started law enforcement there. Um, how did you get to Georgia?
I had an aunt that lived here, and I used to come and visit. And Atlanta was, I loved it,
Okay.
and I knew this is where I wanted to be. And so I moved down here and been here ever since.
Around about, and I don't want you to tell your age, but around about what time?
I moved here in 1990.
Oh, okay, okay. It was Atlanta was on fire in 1990.
It absolutely was. It was like a magical time, man. Maynard Jackson was the mayor. Andrew Young had just did his 2 terms. Maynard came back. It was a very amazing place to be at that time,
Yeah.
and to see those type of African Americans in power. And they were very dignified back then.
Right.
Wasn't like it is now. You
Yeah.
know, they really did a great job and gave us a good vision of what leadership could be. Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. A lot of leadership now has become kind of hoodish. And don't get me wrong, I'm from the hood,
Right.
but that's not what we need at the top in leadership positions. You
I
know what I'm
agree.
saying?
I agree.
Right.
Okay. Um, what did you always see yourself working in law enforcement, or was there another dream first?
I pretty much knew. When I was in first grade, I used to play cops and robbers.
Right.
I always wanted to be an officer as far as I can remember as a first grade, but it wasn't until uh, right around that time, right around the age of 14 or so, a childhood friend of mine was murdered,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean a very gruesome murder, uh, raped, mutilated,
Mm.
right? And where I lived at in Charleston, that was unheard of. I actually grew up on a place called James Island, so that you had to drive across the bridge from the city of Charleston. We used to live in the city of Charleston,
Okay.
but my mother moved us out there, and of course we escaped the crack epidemic because it was right before all of that got started when we moved off of the projects and went over there. But over there, that was unheard of. I don't even know if that was really heard of in the city, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And it had the neighborhood gripped with fear. So there was another guy that was a mentor to me. He was in homicide back at that time.
Okay.
His name Eugene Frazier. And he probably solved the most whodunit murders in the history of Charleston County. And he solved that murder and caught those guys. And he became a mentor because when that happened, I pretty much knew what my path was. It wasn't going to be just law enforcement. I wanted to be the guy that went after the criminals that committed the theft for which there could be no restitution, and that's human life. There's no restitution for that. If you break
Right.
a mind, you can replace my big screen TV or whatever. But when you take somebody's life, that can't be replaced.
Right.
And then that became my path. And of course, I spent over a decade in homicide.
Mm. Now that was in South Carolina, right?
Well, no. I spent a decade in homicide
In
once I
Georgia.
got to Atlanta.
Oh, when you got to Atlanta, did you immediately go to Clayton County, or was it?
It wasn't too much long after I got it, because I had to go through the process and everything.
Okay.
And then when I got on and really I applied for every agency. Clayton County picked me up first. And the interesting thing about that story is I really, you got to go with the first come first serve. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But when I got out there, Clayton County was nothing like it is now. There was still a lot of farmland out there. It was
Yep.
very suburban, very quiet. And I remember thinking, you know what? I'll ride this out for a year or two, and then I'm gonna go to
Jump
Atlanta.
out.
Right, because I wanted to. I
You
wanted
want
to
some
get
action?
exactly. I wanted to get with Atlanta homicide, and I knew I couldn't get straight on, so I figured, well, maybe I can get with Red Dogs first, and then work my
Oh,
way
you
on
going
up
for
to
the
homicide.
gusto? Cause Red Dog had a reputation of, I ain't never seen criminals that was really scared of the police, but them Red Dogs, hey man,
They need to bring them back.
you think so?
I know so. I know. Let me tell you this, man. The one thing that Chief Greenberg taught me, a lot of people debate me on this, and it'd be interesting to hear your opinion. But I believe that fear is good, and let me tell you why. I mean, we had the fear of course, we got ultimate the fear of God. You fear your parents or whatever like that if you do something wrong. But Greenberg put it in perspective for me. This is what he said. He said that he used to patrol a particular area before he became chief, and that there was this 90-year-old woman that used to push this grocery cart full of money, right? And nobody never robbed her.
Okay.
And the reason they didn't rob her is they knew whose money that was.
Mm.
They knew that if they robbed her, it wasn't her they was worried about. They know if they robbed this woman, that retribution was going to be swift and severe.
Okay.
And he said, listen, that's how we got to police. If these criminals don't know that it's going to be swift and severe, they're going to take over. So they feared that man. And I mean, literally, we feared him too because, he literally kept order like that. I can remember standing in a line of officers and he was passing out suspensions like the Easter Bunny pass out candy. If you did anything out of line, he wasn't just hard on the criminals, he was hard on us. If we did anything out of line, so he kept everything. It was a balance. You get what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
He wasn't going to let criminals get away with nothing, but he wasn't going to let the cops get away with anything either if they did something they shouldn't have done to out there, even if it was to a criminal or whatever like that. So he really set the tone for me.
Okay.
And before I ever knew about Red Dogs, he had units like that. He had a tax squad unit, a flying squad unit, and those units were feared. And a lot of people left Charleston and went to North Charleston because they know they couldn't operate in that city with those guys out there in the way he policed that city. And, and of course he had his distractors or whatever, but Charleston City was the safest it ever was under his command. And he taught me something very important. Every city or every county needs something or someone to fear, or it's chaos.
Okay, so let me ask you this: would a red dog unit or a unit similar to the one that was in South Carolina actually contribute to the decrease in crime, or is it just the boogeyman amongst criminals?
Both. Because you got to have those type of units to take control back of areas that are crime infested, and they're going to become the boogeyman because criminals know that, hey, I can't operate with these guys there. So, anytime you want to control crime, you got to control the territory. So you got to make up your mind if you either going to control the territory or the criminal's going to control the territory. So if there's 12 or 13 guys allowed to stand on a particular corner every day, and you got to be good with them just to walk in the store or walk out or whatever. They got control. And the only way to take back those type of corners is a car got to pull up and 4 doors got to open and folks got to be, hey, let's go on the ground now, whatever. What you got? You got guns, you got this and that. That's the only way a man can raise his family and feel comfortable with his daughter going to the store knowing she's not going to be accosted, or his son going there knowing he's not going to be robbed. And, a lot of people, a lot of folks out there, they're like, we don't need to do that. Well, when you don't do that, you get what we got now.
Right. Can you tell me the 3 top things that law enforcement are responsible for in a community so that we're on the same page? Because a lot of people get misconstrued as to what the police officers and what the sheriff and what's supposed to take place. So what are the responsibilities of law enforcement in a community?
Well, let's start with the sheriff. Okay. The sheriff by Constitution is 3 things.
Okay.
He's the chief law enforcer, the chief officer of the court, and the chief jailer. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say 2 out of 3 or 1 out of 3.
Okay.
In the city of Atlanta, that kind of got misconstrued because there were 13 counties when I first got here, now only 11, that have a county police and a sheriff's office. So people are under the assumption that, well, the sheriff only does warrants and only does the jail, and that's not true.
Okay.
You can just go to Douglas County and the sheriff does it all. There is no county police there. You can go to Fayette County, the sheriff does it all. Well, usually that started because of some type of politics. Like in Henry County, the commissioners got mad at the sheriff because he locked one of them up for DUI, so they created a county police. Usually it has something to do with politics, and the commissioners wanted to have some control over policing because they don't have control over the sheriff. What happened over the years is it got misconstrued, and people really thought, well, the sheriff can only do this and the sheriff can only do that. So we're paying all these tax dollars for an office that's designed to do it all, and paying for an extra office. So when I came in, my goal was to restore the sheriff's office's original jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way I'm gonna be the sheriff and I'm gonna watch the county get raped, robbed, and murdered and say, "Hey, we ain't doing nothing. That's
Right.
a police job." And they weren't. And to be honest with you, they weren't doing anything anyway. And I know because I used to work there
Okay.
before I became sheriff. So it was then that the sheriff's office came to the forefront in Clayton County because I put my guys out on the front line, and they had to respond to all priority calls. They had to go and do what we call proactive police work. You know, I never took a call from an old lady that told me, "Hey, we got a drug house across the street. Well, ma'am, you need to call the police." If I wasn't busy, I went myself. If not, I sent the team to handle it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So the sheriff does all three. Now, philosophically, there are people out there that believe that, well, the police is not really designed to do this or do that. But let me tell you this. At the end of the day, the police are supposed to not just respond to crime, but prevent crime. And the only way to prevent crime is you got to be proactive. If you just respond, okay, well, someone got shot. Okay, well, let's go there and let's figure out who shot him and let's give him render aid or whatever. And that's just being responsive, and that solves absolutely nothing. Real policing is how do we stop the shooting from even happening? Okay, so that requires aggressive policing. That means, okay, well, he got shot on the corner. Okay, well, let's clear the corner. If he ain't there and the people with the guns ain't there, nobody can get shot. All right, well, there's burglaries going on in his house. Well, who's doing it? Well, you know, it's the crackheads that go down the street and buy drugs at that particular house. Really, let's shut that house down and let's lock them up. And that way he can't get crack anymore. If we can get him help, fine. If not, if he's still doing it, let's get him off the streets too. Now the problem is solved. But if we stop, it's kind of like mosquitoes. I mean, at the end of the day, they take these things and they put it in pools of water so the mosquitoes can't even breathe to start coming out and bite you.
Okay.
It's being proactive. I mean, if you want to wait and swat them, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the best thing to do is don't even let a group of them be born.
Okay, so let me make sure, because you know I pay attention to a lot of things and I'm still learning. So what you're saying is, in reference to preventing crime, you're gonna wipe the block out. So that I understand this, I guess this would be equivalent to, I don't know if you remember, but there was a time where you could not ride through Pine Lake without getting a ticket. If you went through Pine Lake, the first ticket I ever got in my life, I got it in Pine Lake. So in my mind, you know what I would say? I'm gonna take the long way around. It's 2:00 in the morning. I'm gonna take the long. So what you're saying is, Clayton County belongs to you. Guess what? I know how to clean Clayton County up. So it doesn't stop the crime, but it stops it in this area. You won't do it over here. It's basically
Absolutely.
what's going on. Okay.
Absolutely. You got to control the territory.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. So you a chess player, aren't you?
Without a doubt.
Absolutely. Have you ever heard of a game called Go? So Go is an Asian game that's played in Asia. Sun Tzu played it. Chairman Mao played it. It's kind of like the Asian version of chess.
Okay.
Now, here's what's interesting. Chess is linear. I love chess, by the way.
Yeah.
And I'm not claiming I'm a chess master, but I just love the game.
Right.
Okay. So chess is linear. Chess is two armies facing each other and using strategy or whatever like that. Go is kind of like, it's a board game. The board almost looks the same, but it's far more squares and it's circular. So it's kind of like guerrilla warfare, so to speak. But what's interesting about Go is this: not only can you can capture more than one piece at a time, but all of the great masters don't even capture nothing at all, because whoever controls the territory wins the game. If they there's some masters, they're so good, if they control the territory, they won the game and haven't even captured not one piece yet. Like I said, Chairman Mao played Go. Sun Tzu played Go. There were some shoguns that you couldn't even work for them unless you played this particular game. I like both games. I think you learn from both. But the most important thing I learned from Go is control the territory.
Okay.
So let's say there's a group. So notice what I said. At Go, you don't even have to capture anybody. You know, the chess, you're trying to capture the king.
Right.
Okay, and that's how you see most law enforcement deal with drugs. Hey, let's capture the drug lord. Well, if that worked, we shouldn't have no drugs. I mean, I was locked up with a whole bunch of drug lords. It's just somebody taking their place.
That's it.
It doesn't work.
Right.
Okay. But if you control the territory, if there's a drug area here and I got road checks set up and there's only one way in and one way out, I now control the territory. You see what I'm saying? So the drugs can't get in, the drugs can't get out. The drug dealers don't like it, but guess what? They're not serving 20, 30 years in jail. So this gives them a chance to do something else.
Right.
So now we've solved the whole problem just by controlling the territory. So sometimes you can control the territory by where you put the pieces. Other times you control the territory by what they probably call the military occupation. You got several pieces there, but they're there where nobody can really move or whatever like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that works with crime fighting, and that's what we did in Clayton County. You know, we did a lot with drugs, but if you notice, you don't see a lot of drug arrests when I was sheriff. There's a lot of murder arrests and a lot of stuff like that. But I really didn't have to lock up drug dealers because I just controlled the territory where they couldn't sell drugs. They had to leave.
Right.
Or the ones that stayed, they had to find something else to do.
Yeah. Okay.
The problem solved. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. What was your toughest obstacle in becoming sheriff of Clayton County, if any?
Well, you know, the toughest obstacle was this. Most sheriffs are born and raised in the county. A lot of them worked at the sheriff's office, came up through the ranks. You know, some people call it the
good old boy. Yep.
Right now, I guess we can call it the ghetto boy. Like they played that, but anyway. But the thing about it is this. You know, I hate to say it. You know, we got a situation where we went from the good old boys to the ghetto boys, and both can be a problem.
Right.
When it comes to running an organization right. So anyway, I didn't come up through the ghetto boy system or the ghetto boy system. I wasn't in either clique. So I was an outsider running for sheriff.
Uh-huh.
And that created a lot of political enemies. And then of course, when I came in, I tried to remove that regime to bring in my own regime. And then that's been an ongoing battle that ultimately ended up in what you see happening. You know, a lot of people think that this case against me, that 6 guys went and said, hey, I was put in a restraint chair, I need help. That's not what happened.
You pissed somebody off.
Exactly. That was a regime. Now, some of them guys have been out of jail almost a year. Hey, you in a restraint chair? Hey, is he the one that put you in a restraint chair?
Yeah.
Hey, come down and testify. We can build a case.
Okay.
None of these guys never. Let me tell you something. That restraint chair was used 630 times. Probably 10 times by me. 600 sometimes by officers, commanders, or whatever. We never had a lawsuit. We never had a complaint. No one never said they were injured. Nothing never happened. And then one guy who's working on a campaign to unseat me, who had been in the restraint chair several times before, and had to be put in the restraint chair again after he was working on a campaign against me. Then all of a sudden, hey, we know what? We're going to come at him with this. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
if you look, it's the same people that was involved in being my political enemies from the beginning of time when I first became sheriff. You see what I'm saying? So that's the story nobody talks about. That's the type of stuff we weren't even allowed to bring out at the federal trial. People thought it was just a restraint chair case and didn't know the whole background.
Right.
The media didn't put it out, and then the judge didn't allow us to bring the stuff up in court.
Wow.
Right. And why? The judge is friends with the DA.
Got you.
Work at the DA. The judge is Facebook friends with one of my political opponents. Then we talked earlier about the media, who I didn't even deal with. And, of course, they made sure they played a certain part every day. They played scenes from other jails because there's no scene in something ever did. Right. Not only that, and we got to talk about this at some point, but they lied to a grand jury. On the grand jury indictment, a guy says he was punched and with a mask, and they took the mask off and I was standing there. We get to trial. I'm waiting for that to come up because we know it didn't happen. No one brings it up because it never happened. But you lied to a grand jury to get an indictment.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. So, what are some successes from your time as sheriff that people don't really give you credit for?
Well, let me tell you, I think people pretty much know about the jail and they pretty much know about the crime, so you're right. But there's one thing that maybe a few people may remember, but it's very dear to me. We used to have 13 massage parlors in Clayton County.
Really?
And yeah,
That
13
is
massage
a
parlors.
lot of happy endings, brother.
That, yeah, you're right about that. And when I was a detective, every now and then they used to send me undercover into these massage parlors, and we would arrest a girl that would proposition me and leave, and the place just kept running. I mean, it didn't even close. I
Yeah.
don't even know why we were doing it. Maybe someone made a complaint. They had to make it seem like we did something, but the place never closed. Well, by the time I become sheriff, it becomes more clear what's going on. I mean, we knew it was prostitution going on,
Yeah.
but a lot of these girls were in sexual servitude. They were
Mm.
actually there against their will, trafficking
Right.
to this,
Human trafficking.
exactly. So anyway, I created a vice unit, and they were able to. We had an operation that probably lasted about 2 months to get all the information we needed, and we were able to raid all of these clubs and shut them down the same day, and free these girls and send them back to their countries where they came from.
Wow.
It wasn't planned. We didn't even realize it, but on the day we did it, it was an Emancipation Proclamation Day, and it wasn't planned. And then ironically, just came up that hey, so I guess I freed the slaves on Emancipation
Hey, man.
Proclamation.
Hey, I'll take that because I
Yeah,
live maybe 30 seconds away from Clayton County. And I don't remember, are there any massage parlors in Clayton County now?
let me tell you that story. Do you remember when a guy was going to the massage parlors in Atlanta and shooting, and then
Yep,
he would go to
yep, yep,
another
yep,
one?
yep, yep.
Well, the guy who was the police chief when that was happening called me, and he said, "Hey, look, you might want to get an officer to go to the massage parlors and warn them because we haven't caught this guy yet."
Yep.
And I remember telling the chief, I said, "We don't have no massage parlors," and he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I closed them up my first term," and the phone went silent for a second, and it was then that I realized that we really did something good for that community because not just the problems that come with that because it brings other type of
Right.
crimes, but these girls that were put in sexual
Just whole
servitude
human
against their
traffic.
will. Hopefully nobody re-trafficked them, but we
Right.
got them safely back to where they came
But
from.
that also goes back to your philosophy of controlling the area. So
Absolutely.
I understand that.
So let's talk about that from a gangster point of view.
Okay.
Since you're a former gangster, right? Okay.
This is what I told my students when I teach them at the class in DeKalb Juvenile. I
Right.
am the most unsuccessful criminal in the state of Georgia. I'm a horrible, horrible criminal. Horrible. So, but yeah, I did jump off the porch, and when I jumped off the porch, I jumped directly into the back of a police car. So, if that's gangster, then we'll roll with it.
Okay, got you. Well, let's look at it from this point of view. Uh, at one point, everyone, it was the perception, even if it wasn't true, that Gotti ran New York.
Okay.
At one point, Al Capone ran Chicago. Pablo Escobar ran Colombia or whatever, and I forgot El Chapo ran Mexico, whatever.
Right.
And we see that Bumpy Johnson ran Harlem or
Harlem.
whatever.
Yeah.
So when you're the head of a law enforcement agency and you're responsible for a jurisdiction, I think that you got to make a decision. Is a gangster going to run your city or county, or you are?
Okay.
So I had to make sure that there were, and no disrespect, I had to make sure there were no big meechas in my county, that there were
Really.
no John Gottis, that there were no whatever like that. That county was ran by the sheriff's office.
Okay.
If there was going to be a symbol up there, a lot of people talk about, hey man, this dude got a flag at the front of the county or whatever. We did have a flag up there. There was a flag with a sheriff's badge on it. There were signs. coming into the county saying, "Welcome to Clayton County."
Yeah.
Criminals enter at their own risk.
Yep.
There was a reason for that. And at the same time we were putting that up, we were taking down graffiti. We were taking down whatever. Because graffiti shows that the criminals are in charge or the gangs are in charge. They're marking their territory.
Mm.
So what my strategy was, no, we're going to mark the territory. We're going to mark it with that gold star badge. We're going to mark it with that emblem. We're going to take the graffiti down anytime we see it, anytime it's reported. We're going to put this up. There's going to be no disrespect to John Gotti and Big Meech and all of them guys, but there will be none of them in Clayton County.
Okay, put a pin in it, because I got some people that's listening and they don't quite understand. They're gonna be like, Butler, you on here interviewing the Victor Hill. Okay, so when graffiti gets covered up and police flags go up, what does that do to the property value in Clayton County?
Raises it.
Okay. All right, you can continue. I just wanted to make that plain.
Absolutely. Because, it's clearly showing who's in charge of the county. Not the criminals, but the good guys. If the bad guys can have a presence, then the good guys. Listen, let me tell you something. I'm a connoisseur of leadership. I study all leaders.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter what you're the leader of. I'm looking at what makes this person an effective leader.
Okay.
Even if they leading in a way that leading something I don't believe they should be leading. Mm-hmm. And some of these guys, you got to give them credit. They were hellfire leaders. That is true. And that's why they became big in that particular world. You got to give them their respect for that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you learn. Okay, well, good. That's what they're doing. But hey, we can't have this here. Now, if we're gonna have law and order.
Okay.
So we took a page out of the gangs book, out of the whatever book, and decided. I tell you what, this is gonna be the one area where we in charge. Y'all might be in charge of the other counties. Y'all might be in charge of this area. But here, there's no John Gotti's, there's no Big Meech's, there's no Pablo Escobar's. It's just going to be the Clayton County Sheriff's Office. Simple as that. And who just happened to be in charge of the Clayton County Sheriff's Office would just happen to be me.
Okay. So now, because I know the reputation amongst the public and the criminals, but what about your team? Are you getting any pushback from your team? And if so, what is that looks like?
Right. So there was pushback in a team, especially the folks that were there when I took over.
Who didn't feel like you needed to have that position.
Right. Or they wanted the position.
Right.
They wanted the position, or they wanted one of their friends to have the position, because if their friend have the position, they can get what they want or get whatever they want.
Right.
Here's the reality of leadership, though, is this. There's a saying out there about you can drag a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink, right? Mm-hmm. Anytime I had a supervisor or commander that would tell me that, they wasn't going to be a supervisor or commander long. Let me tell you why. That's an excuse-driven leadership. Okay, if I'm riding on a horse and that horse collapsed, and I call, hey, the horse collapsed. You didn't water the horse? Well, I led him to the water, but I can't make him drink. Yeah. That's not what I need. Okay, you either force feed the water down his throat, or you get an IV and stick it in his vein to make sure the horse
he has to have that water.
Because I got to get across this desert. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't deal with excuses, right? So if you're a real leader, okay, if you can get the horse to drink, cool. If you could hug the horse and kiss the horse, drink, great. But that don't always work. It don't. There's some, if that's the case, we should have low crime everywhere. Because you see, we got all the Hug a Thug programs going on, and they tearing up the city. So
you ain't changed neither, because you'll still call a spade. But go ahead.
Well, thank you. So at the end of the day, you got to make things happen. So, like when I used to have cars sitting in front of drug houses, nobody really wanted to do that. They want to ride around the county and stop at Quick Trip and talk to the pretty girls there. They don't want to sit there. And they come everywhere. What if a call go out? What if such and such? Hey, we got enough people to handle that. I need a car here or whatever. You got to, unfortunately, there's a part of leadership where you got to make people do their jobs. Not everybody is going to do their job, especially government workers, because they get paid the same whether they perform or not. Mm. So you got to make them do their job. And when you make them do their job, then, of course, they're going to paint you as a dictator. Hey, this guy's hard to work for. He's this and that. Mm-hmm. And I understand it, because, remember, I thought that way about the first police chief I worked for.
Right.
But now I understood why he had to do what he had to do. If he really wanted to get the crime done, he couldn't make everybody that work for them happy and give them the soft assignments and say, you don't have to go there and you don't have to stay here. No, this is what we need to do to take this territory. And that's what we're going to do.
Right.
Right. So, sometimes, in military operations, it's not really a democracy. Somebody has to be in charge and somebody has to give the order that we're going to charge the hill and we're going to right flank or whatever. Because that's not a time where, everybody say all in favor, say aye. While you doing that, you're gonna get destroyed in battle.
Right. Okay. So, what mistakes, if any, do you admit were avoidable during your tenure? If that makes sense. Were there mistakes that you made, and in retrospect, you say, you know what, that could have been avoided?
Oh, absolutely. I think everybody, if they honest. Hell, I probably could come up with about 5 or 10 of those.
Oh, man.
But let me tell you what the biggest mistake I made was this. I believe, like a lot of leaders believe, and part of that can be through ego or whatever, that I could create leaders. So I believe I could take whatever team I'm given or whatever's there. Well, I didn't believe it at first, but then I bought into this idea that, okay, take what you got and work with it, and you can create leaders. And unfortunately, that's just not true. Leaders are born; they're not created. What I should have done, and maybe this is also my fault too, because I'm one of those red dudes that I don't follow sports as much as I should. I follow it for leadership reasons, but I'm not on it like most of my friends are, right?
Yeah.
So. But if I had paid closer attention, okay, the NFL, they recruit. They have to recruit.
Right, the best of the best.
Exactly, because, okay, if you could just create a Tom Brady, if you could just create a Michael Jordan, then every NFL team would create one.
Yeah.
And every football team would just create one. Okay, we're going to take you and we'll turn you into him and a better.
Right.
These people are born. And what you've got to do is recruit and find them. And I learned that, later than I should have.
Okay.
So if I was to do it all over again, I would spend more time recruiting and looking for the right folks than I would trying to turn people around me into. Right. And see, part of what led that fantasy on longer than it should have went on is this. Remember this. An army of chickens led by an eagle will always defeat an army of eagles led by a chicken. An army of chickens led by an eagle will always defeat an army of eagles led by a chicken. Right. If you never remember anything else about leadership, remember that. I went to a leadership school put on by Navy SEALs, and they said it a different way. They said every time they do BUDS training, they got these water raft races with the ocean.
Yeah.
One boat will always win, and another boat will always lose. And they say every time they take the captain off the boat that's winning and put it on the boat that's losing, that boat that was losing starts winning. We saw it, and look here, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know anything about football, but one thing took my attention. Tom Brady leaves the Patriots after winning 6 Super Bowls, goes to Tampa Bay, and wins the Super Bowl again. That's an example in sports.
Gotcha.
Okay, so because of that, I'm thinking that I have created some leaders, but really, so I'm thinking, and don't get me wrong, I had some very good people there, but I also had some folks there that was just, they were just there coming along. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And because of that, I thought we were creating leaders, but we really weren't. It was just the fact of the leadership and the fact that, and that's really what was going on there. So now you see the proof of that, because a person I thought I could turn into a leader is there now. There are people being gang raped in the jail. There's drugs in the jail.
People dying.
7 murders in the jail or whatever like that. So that's something I had to learn the hard way, and I'm living it now. And it's I don't want to call it a nightmare, but it's damn near short to it, because I'm close to it, because I feel for the people in Clayton County because I feel like I left them in bad hands. And so I think that's the biggest lesson that I've learned. Don't you ever try to create a leader. You got to go and find what's already there. You can take a guy and send him to command college and send him to FBI academy and do whatever, and they still can't find a hooker in a whorehouse or still can't command a playground fight. Or as a wise old man once told me, hey, I got one good for you. Either you could take a donkey and move him into a palace, put a crown on him, and sit him on a throne, and it's still a jackass. It's not a king.
Right.
You got to find a king and put a crown on a king. You can't put a crown on something and then it becomes a king. So that was a hard lesson learned. If there's anybody out there that's aspiring to leadership and getting ready to take over leadership anywhere, I hope I shortcut that lesson for them that I had to learn.
You did. I think you just did. You just, in a classic way, you just called somebody an asshole too, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, so let's talk about the jail. Let's talk about the jail. So you said that there have been 7 deaths.
Murders, not death. You know, death is natural causes.
Right.
Okay, you die of a heart attack. You die of whatever. And I'm not saying there's no liability in that either if the conditions were conducive to the person's death. Now, some people just come to jail and they're already sick and they were going to die anyway.
Right.
There's a difference. And then, and then I don't count an overdose as a natural death because there shouldn't be drugs in the jail for somebody to overdose.
Yeah.
But there's been 7 people killed in the jail as of the day before yesterday. It was 6 before, and now another guy was in an altercation and killed. We never had, I'm not going to tell you no one ever died when I was sheriff. Right. That's going to happen. But there were never any murders when I was sheriff, and I was sheriff for 15 years. And that's because of what? We controlled the territory.
Now, let me ask you this, because I've heard a story. I don't know where I heard the story from. Maybe you and I were having a conversation, or maybe there was an individual who was in your jail, in Clayton County Jail, while you were in charge of everything. And upon arriving there, he had a drug addiction. Now, because the facility was secured, there were no drugs coming in. So he actually had an opportunity to get off of the drugs. When this young man spoke to you, he thanked you. You couldn't understand why. And he said, well, I didn't have access and it helped me get clean. So what was taking place then that's not taking place now? And this is why I asked that question, because right now in the Georgia Department of Corrections, there are almost 200 deaths. We're not even in December yet. So these numbers have almost doubled. I am looking at footage of Dooley State Prison where in the day room, there are at least 8 to 9 people that are clearly overdosing on drugs. And it's being filmed with a cell phone. So what I'm asking is, what were you doing that is not taking place now? Because, and this is from an individual who was previously incarcerated, who I was in prison when Tony Turpin was in charge, when there were a number of people that came in and, hey man, you can get out of line and you can get this ass whipping. It's going to come. But within that, there was a certain form of discipline, because with structure, I was able to go to trade school. I was able to get my GED. I was able to participate in culinary arts, barbering, woodworking. I was able to do a number of things, but had it not been a clean area, a place where I could focus in on this, it never would have happened. I know that was a lot.
No. It was a lot good.
Okay.
I mean, there was a lot of meat on them bones you just gave. Let me tell you this, man. I'm gonna tell you how I did it, and it's so simple. You was working a puzzle and you couldn't figure it out. Then somebody walk up and say, okay, just do that. And you was like, oh Lord, that was simple. I complicated it. Okay. I'm going to tell you how we kept drugs out of there. And anyone listening that runs a jail is just as simple. I'm going to give the secret, and it has a lot to do with that game called Go, Controlling the Territory. Okay. When drugs get in the jail, when cell phones get in the jail, when anything gets in the jail, it doesn't magically float in there.
Gotcha.
Okay. So the only way for it to get in is going to be an officer an employee, a nurse, a maintenance person, doctor, whatever, someone that has access to the jail.
Right.
Most jails, employees can walk in and out of that jail unchecked. And
Right.
there's usually more than 2 or 3 entrances they can come in. They could be, if there was an employee entrance to the Clayton County Jail, there was a way from the loading dock or whatever. All I did was this. Anyone that works in this jail can only come through one entrance.
Mm.
Everyone that comes through up to and including me has to be searched. There's a camera on that area filming the search. A camera that I could get on my cell phone and punch in and look at anytime I want.
Okay.
If you left the jail for 5 minutes to take a smoke and came back, you got searched again.
Yeah.
So you make one entrance and you control it. Nobody else better walk in here any other way. Sometimes there was a drug dog there.
Yeah.
Just out the clear blue sky, just for the hell of it. Just so people, no one knew the day nor the hour that drug dog was going to be there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Okay, and magically, no cell phones, no drugs, none of this other stuff.
Okay.
So simply by controlling the territory, same thing I did with the drug dealers. Okay, there's a drug area. Well, how many entrances to that area? Okay, well, there's only one. Okay, good. Then all we need to do is sit there. Well, there's 5 entrances. Okay, well, how many drug houses there? Well, there's only 2. Well, I'll tell you what, we may not have 5 people to cover that, but we put a car by each drug house. We only need 2 cars. You control the territory. The ingress and the egress or whatever. It's just that simple. Now, don't get me wrong, too. Some of it, too, was fear. Because they knew if I caught them selling drugs, what was going to happen.
Oh, it was going down.
I wasn't even going to hesitate. So I don't even think, I think the folks that they didn't even think about the drone and cutting the fence and doing all the stuff like they're doing now because they didn't want to deal with it. And, of course, we got to control those territories, too, with perimeter patrol. If you look, after they came at me with this, and I was suspended, it probably wasn't maybe 2 months that the drugs started coming in. Because remember, weakness always attracts aggression. Peace only comes through strength. Right. So they smelled the weakness. They pretty much knew, okay, this dude ain't gonna do nothing.
Yeah.
And then from that moment, all of a sudden you can see videos of them running up and putting stuff and pulling it up to with rope and stuff like that. And I mean, it's all on video. Now the jail is drug infested. I had a guy get out of jail, contact me on Messenger saying he had to go to medical because he was inhaling all this smoke. It's probably K2.
Right.
And whatever like that. But it's not rocket science. If you go to any jail and control the interest that employees come in, that anyone comes in, even people coming to deliver food, and they have to be searched, and they have to be monitored, and you film it. That way, if someone say, I'm going to let you through, well, they on video, they can't let you through because we got a whole video, everything going. Not rocket science. Remember this, I never ran a jail before. I was a homicide detective, so it's not like I had jail experience.
Right.
The only thing I brought to the jail was common sense. And a little bit of chest and a little bit of go.
So with seeing how the system is ran now, are they just, because you said it could be ran on common sense, are we just lacking common sense, or is there another agenda, or is this, what's going on right now? It just seems to be in complete chaos.
I think it's a little of both, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I can't prove the second part. I know the common sense is out the door. We know that.
Okay.
We see that. Okay. But I just find it very interesting. Somewhere there's a drug lord that's making a real good living off of the Clayton County Jail alone.
Gotcha.
With the amount of drugs that's in there now.
Okay.
Somewhere, and this doesn't even come from one person. I get contacted by people in and out of this jail all the time. I got contacted by a woman last night that her son was gang raped at the jail.
Now that's crazy.
Right. And you familiar with PREA, the Prison Rape Elimination Act? And she said her son was gang raped to the point that where he had to get surgery on his ass.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
That never happened under my watch. Remember, everything is a reflection of leadership. I don't have to, people always want to blame this person, blame that. I never have to meet the sheriff. All I got to do is walk through the jail and I know the sheriff or the warden. I don't have to meet the police chief. All I got to do is ride through the city or the county and I know the police chief. I ride through the city and I see a bunch of graffiti. I see a bunch of folks running up the cars and having attitudes. If you tell them no, if I see 10, 20 dudes in front of a store and I see them there every day, I already know the police chief. I ain't got to meet him.
Gotcha.
I already know he's weak and don't have control of his territory.
Gotcha. Okay, so do you think power changed you, or because I feel like I already know the answer.
Yeah, I'm glad you. I got an answer for you.
Come on with it.
Okay, so let me tell you, and it kind of coincides with what we've been talking about.
Right.
Remember that power, money, and alcohol doesn't change people. It just enhances who they are.
Power.
You ever had one friend? He's drunk. Hey man, I love you, man. And the other one, man, we can go now. You know what I'm saying? They want to fight. Well, they always wanted to fight. They probably always thought, hey man, this is a great guy. I love him. They just didn't have the courage to fight you or say that until they got the alcohol.
Okay.
I got two friends. This here really brings it home.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them were born into poverty just like I was.
Right.
Both became millionaires. One of them, when he became a millionaire, he went straight to Magic City and started making it rain.
Right.
The other one flew to Africa and started feeding children, and he's white. That's who they were. I know them. One of them, when he was watching those commercials with the kids starving, his eye probably was tearing up because he's just that dude. I mean, I was riding with him one day, and we were riding past a homeless person right near Atlantic Station, and he said, hey, pull over and pull this money. He give that guy the money. I said, oh, okay.
Yeah.
He didn't want him. No, something told me he needs the money. I said, okay.
Right.
That's him. That's who he's always been. He just didn't have the money to do it. Now, the other dude always wanted to be a baller, and now he got the money, and that's what he does. If you watch him, watch his social media, he's trying to show you how much of a baller he is. So, same thing with power. It doesn't change people. It just enhances
who they already
are.
Gotcha.
So never think it changed anybody. It's just that they didn't have the chance to be that or whatever. So it's just a magnifying glass. That's all it is.
Okay. All right. So can you walk me through the day you realized that prison was a possibility, and what were your first thoughts when that became a reality?
Well, the first thought is this. I was still amazed, for lack of a better terms. Now, I already knew the fallacies in the criminal justice system. I already knew how crazy grand juries are. You can indict a ham sandwich. What I was amazed at was, I wasn't so much amazed that they were able to get me indicted, because you can indict anybody. If you're going before a grand jury, we knew that was going to happen. What I was amazed of the trial, how the judge stopped key evidence that could have got me acquitted, how she coerced a whole lot juror that didn't want to vote for a conviction or whatever, and coerced him into a guilty verdict. Even after the man came out and she questioned him, he said, hey, they're yelling at me, screaming at me. She wouldn't call a mistrial. I was, the fact that, like I told you earlier, her connections with my political opponents, her husband, I think that part there was the amazement or shock part at just how crazy this criminal justice system can be when they want to convict someone or target somebody for something. The prison part turned out to be, I was no stranger to jail because I spent a lot of time in my jail.
Right.
I was one of the few sheriffs that walked the jail all the time. They did have a surprise for me. Most politicians are sent to camps.
Right.
I got sent to a real prison and put in the most violent housing unit on that particular prison. Matter of fact, Forest City is considered one of the 10 worst federal prisons in the federal system.
You pissing people off.
Exactly. And then when I got there, okay, they put me in there. 4 hours later, I get called back up to the front. and the lieutenant asked, "Hey, just checking on you. Do they know who you are?" "Yeah, they know who I am." You know, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine." Are you scared?" "No, I'm fine." "Okay. Well, if that was a concern,
Why
why
did you
you even
put me
brought
there
me
in the
back
first
up there?
place? Yeah.
Well, I found out later. A lot of people would come in that particular section and would check themselves in. They come in there and say, "Oh, hell no." When they
I'm
saw
going to
that
PC.
bathroom, when they saw all of the, well, there were killers in there, to be
Right,
honest with
right.
you. I mean, one of them killed a cop. Okay. When they saw the environment and what it was, they're like, "Hey, I can't do this. Check me in," you know. And I watched a lot of guys either check themselves in or get checked in. They didn't want you there. They beat you. There was no cameras where we were at. The only time they knew what was going on is for God walked through, if he walked through. Okay.
Right.
And they would walk through and do patrols. But what they would do is beat a guy, glove up, of course, to beat him, and then he would go up and beat on the door, bloody, and they would have to take him out there and check him, and then they come in and check everybody's knuckles and see if they could figure out who was involved. Okay. So 3 months after I'm there, I guess they don't hear nothing from me. So I get called up, and it wasn't the warden, but it was a guy that was up in administration with him. And he said, "Hey, just checking on you. I understand you're a high-profile figure back from Atlanta." I said, "Yeah, I guess you could say that." He said, "Yeah." He said, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." "Anybody bother you?" "No, I'm fine." "Well, how's your family?" I said, "They're fine."
Yeah.
And he said, well, what about you?" I said, "What about me?" He said, emotionally, you need any emotional help?" I said, "No, I'm fine." And there was an awkward silence. And I was like, "Okay, well, if it's okay, I'm going to go back." He's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If you were that concerned, why would you even put me
in the first place
in the MB unit anyway? Which I figured out later why the head dude there was wearing a lion, because it was considered the lion's den. So a lion carved by a shank.
Right.
Now, it's my prized possession, not his, but they carved me one. I can bring it and show it to you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so you were convicted in federal court.
Exactly.
Okay. And what were the actual charges?
It was civil. What do they call it? It's called a civil right violation. Is a name for it. Color of law. Yeah, it's a color of law civil rights violation. It's one of them general charges that they come up with a lot, like back in the day when they had disorderly conduct and it's a catch-all. Right. If they can't get you in anything else, then they'll try and put it broad. It's so broad that they're not supposed to charge you with it unless there's some type of case precedence that shows that what you did was illegal, which they never could come up with that. So they just pulled a rabbit out their hat and they said, "Well, there's a case here where they tased a guy in some water and he died and he was in restraint chair, and that right there is the case precedent." Had nothing to do with my case at all, because I didn't tase anybody, nobody died, and it's just bizarre. And then they use another case where a guy was tied to a hitching pole in the hot sun, and they said those are the precedents. But if you look at my case, not only were they inside an air-conditioned building, they were checked by a nurse before and after they got out the chair. The handcuffs were checked to make sure they weren't too tight. And every 15 minutes, somebody had to check on them and do a log to make sure they're okay.
Gotcha.
How you compare that case to a dude tased and end up dying, I have no idea to say, well, that's the precedence that shows it.
Was there a civil lawsuit involved?
5 of them. And that's where it gets interesting. So think about it. You contact guys that never made a complaint. One of them been out almost a year. You say, "Hey, were you in a restraint?" "Yeah." "Yes, I was in a restraint chair." "Will you come testify?" "Sure." Of course, some of these guys had their charges dropped, their promised money. So then they sue. So think about it. You get out of jail. You don't make any complaints while you're there. You don't make any complaints months you're out. But all of a sudden, you get a knock on your door and say, "Hey, did this guy or ask you to be in the chair?" "Yeah." "Oh, my God, you're a victim. We need you." What about the other 630 people that shit? Did you go knock on their doors? Are they victims too?
Yeah.
Because the same protocol used for these guys was used for them too. Do you know I was actually charged with 7 counts? Are you ready for this?
Come on with them.
I was found guilty on 6. Do you know why I wasn't found guilty on the 7th count? Because there's a video of a sergeant putting him in a restraint chair, not me.
Was the sergeant charged?
My point exactly. Nobody went back to indict him. Nobody said, "Oh my God, you said this guy being in the chair was wrong."
Right.
Okay. You put me with him because I'm talking to him in the chair. I'm talking to him, asking him, "Hey man, why are you kicking in your grandmother's door? Why are you acting crazy? Why are you
Right.
fighting cops? Why are you running out of hospital?"
Mm-hmm.
And I let the guy out the chair after I talked to him.
Yeah.
After I talked to him, I said, "Hey, I don't want no more problems out here." I said, "Hey, let him out. I think whatever." They charged me with him and this other dude that tore up his mother's house, completely destroyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, you find out I didn't put him in a chair. And you don't even charge the guy that put him in the chair. So are you really concerned about him being in the chair and thought it was wrong?
Oh, was it? Do they think that you gave him orders to put him in a chair?
They thought I did, obviously, because they charged. So they found me not guilty because there's a sergeant clearly on film saying put him in the chair.
Oh, okay.
Right? The guy was put in the chair before I even got to
Got you. Okay.
And they put him in a chair, and rightfully so. Everybody in that chair should have been in that chair. And the thing about it is this: that means it's only illegal if I put the person in the chair. If the sergeant put them in a chair, well, then it's legal, which shows the case is a big farce.
Got you. What
Right.
kind of chair is this? Can you describe this chair?
It's a great chair. It has restraints on the legs. It has restraints on the sides, and it has a hole where if you're handcuffed, you can be comfortable because there's a hole back there, so you're not pressed up against the seat.
Now, just thinking out loud. Have you or any of your staff ever been placed in this chair?
Yes.
And
yes.
That's just for you or for everybody on staff?
Yes. Well, I don't know if everybody on the staff, but let me tell you, I'm one of those guys that I don't like asking people to do stuff unless I do it myself.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, for instance, we used to have Nutriloaf. And Nutriloaf is a bar, and it's oatmeal, carrots, corn, collard greens. It's very nutritious.
This probably sounds disgusting.
Yeah. I'm not telling you it's caviar now. Right. But if we had a section that was out of control, if they were, doing crazy stuff, throwing urine, whatever.
Right.
Well, then they would eat Nutriloaf for a day or two, and or whatever, and that usually solved a lot of problems right there. Okay. Well, if I'm gonna feed that to someone, I'm gonna eat it myself because I want to see what it's like. I want to see whatever. And okay, is it what I'm used to eating? No. But it's not no horrible whatever. But it's something that'll make you. It's kind of like you ever went on one of them protein bar diets and you're ready for real food.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right. So everything I've experienced or whatever. I mean, even if it's certain tactics or whatever like that we use, you're going to experience that. Just like when they send you to the academy before they give you a taser, they tase you so you can see what it's like, so you can understand what it is that you're doing to people.
Right.
So, I don't think there's a restraint I haven't been in, so I can see what it's like. You see what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
So there's nothing inhumane about it. It's proactive.
Mm-hmm.
Think about this: when everyone going to court, they're not being restrained here, but their legs shackled, their hands are like this, and they're sitting there waiting for all of these cases. Sometimes they're in court all day like that.
Yep.
Right. So it's not uncommon. And why? Were they uncontrollably violent when that happened? No. It's to prevent them from doing anything. It's not because they're uncontrollably violent.
Gotcha.
The problem talk about these people weren't uncontrollably violent. Nobody said they were uncontrollably violent at the time they went in the chair.
Mm-hmm.
They showed the potential for violence by things they already did or said or whatever like that, and it's a preventative measure, which policy says you can do and state training says you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was actually locked up when I was following state law and training. I mean, policy and training.
Okay. What was the hardest part of prison for you, both mentally and or physically?
All right. So I guess I can talk about this now because I wanted, I didn't want to bring no problems to anybody.
Okay.
Okay. Man, I love to eat. I'm like the Black Anthony Bourdain.
Okay.
When I travel for food just as much as I travel to see the water or whatever. So you name it. That was one of my favorite shows, Food and Travel.
Okay.
Or whatever. So now I'm eating prison food.
Right.
Right. So that ain't no that ain't no 5-star restaurant, or that's not Ann's Snack Bar, or whatever on Memorial Drive when she was alive. But something amazing happened though when I was there. You know, one day I'm walking somewhere and I see a dude with an iron, and I thought he was ironing a damn shirt or something.
Yeah.
And I looked, and this dude was cooking. I was like, you know, and I was trying to wrap my head around it, and it smelled good, it looked good, and whatever. And, you know, I gotta give it credit. Hey, I guess he saw me looking. You want to try it?
Yeah.
Whatever. I was like, yeah, I want to try it. You know. Anyway, that dude became my cook. That's all I got to say.
Wow.
He introduced me to another world.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I didn't know it was possible to cook things the way that they were cooking. I don't want to go into too much detail.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring no problems of folks that are still there.
Yeah.
But there's some dudes that found a way.
Look at you keeping it. Look at you. Look at you keeping it real with the inmates.
Yeah, if he knows who he is, if he ever get to see this, God bless the cook. God bless you. You made those days go by so much faster.
Oh, and so that kind of goes into my next question. Did you see prison differently as an inmate than you did as a sheriff?
Definitely. Let me tell you this, man. And I write about it in my book. The book I wrote, I actually dedicated to the inmates of Forest.
What's the name of that book?
The book is called Vigilante Sheriff, The Truth About Corrupt Prosecutors Weaponizing the Criminal Justice System.
Where can it be purchased?
It's on Amazon.
Okay.
It's audio in my voice.
Okay.
There's an ebook, and of course you can order it. And then Nubian Bookstore in Clayton County carries it.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that bookstore, man.
Yeah. And so I tell you what, let me, instead of telling you, I got the book right here. Let me read the
Come on with it. This is an exclusive, y'all. This is an exclusive.
All right. This book is dedicated to the inmates at the Forest City Federal Correction Institute.
Hold on, wait. Bad guy Victor Hill, notorious Hill, Sheriff Hill, dedicated his book to the inmates at the prison that he was held at.
I had to, man. This book wouldn't have been written if it wasn't for them. This book, let me tell you something. This book was their idea. They edited it. Man, these guys was like having instructors. Hey, you wrote today. Let me see. They would read. They would edit. It was
wow.
Amazing things, whatever. It was their idea for me to run for Congress.
What?
Yes. Okay. So here's the book. So I got to give credit where it's due. This book is dedicated to the inmates at the Forest City Federal Correction Institute, where I'm now a prisoner as I write. I thought this prison would become my monastery so I could engage in long hours of meditation. But to my surprise, this prison has become my university, and the inmates my professors. I never planned to write a book. This book was their idea and their requirement as my dissertation to earn an honorary doctoral degree from their university. My professors contributed a lot to the content of what you're about to read and check daily on my progress. No formal education from an accredited university can match the honorary doctorate in criminal justice I received from them. I will be forever indebted to all of them for helping me achieve, quote, higher education, unquote. I gotta give them dudes credit, man. They really taught me well. And I'm talking about from case law to researching my case. And they made me rethink a lot of things.
Okay.
They really did. And, you know, a lot, you know. So I had to dedicate that book to them. They became my chess instructors, my martial art instructors. You know, you was there. Anything you want to learn, you can learn it. There's a class. You want to learn pimping, you can learn it. If you want to learn how to sell drugs better, you can learn. There's somebody teaching a class for everything, good or bad.
Yeah.
Right. There's guys that teaching how to invest in the options market and the stock market. There's a class for everything because there's a wealth of knowledge there.
There is. That actually leads to my next question, which is what lessons from prison are you carrying into this new chapter of your life?
Well, you know, there's two sides to this story.
Okay.
And both sides have a very legit part. Okay, you have the part where we got to be tough on crime and clean up the streets. That's the truth. And a lot of people don't understand that there are people locked up in jail and they feel the same way.
Right.
Right. Those guys, that's another story I'll tell you later. They didn't, I've seen people beaten severely and sent to the shoe.
Okay.
Stealing. You come there and steal, and they found out. Hell, my tablet got stolen. I didn't talk to the guards. I made a police report with the sheriff. I call him the sheriff. What do they call him? They call. There's a name for it. How can I forget?
Houseman.
Houseman, or whatever you want to call
it.
Right. The orderly. It's called
the orderly. Okay.
In the prison I was at.
Okay.
Right. My tablet come up, miss, and I go talk to him. Hey, we'll look into it. Maybe 3 days later, I'm sitting in a room in a Bible study, and I hear a man running and screaming for his life, and all these footsteps coming behind him. He go running by, a group running by him. He barely made it out there alive. I get back to my bed, and my tablet's there. True story. That's in the book, right? So these guys were hard on crime too. I mean, if you came in there for, it was. Let me tell you why I was so honored about everything that happened. Why I'm honored and why that necklace they carved me is my prized possession or whatever. Child molesters, whatever. The only thing worse than a child molester in that prison is a cop.
Okay.
All right. And the fact that they honored me and treated me the way they did, and there's a story behind that. There were a couple of drug lords from Atlanta or whatever. They had a lot to do with that, because one of them, and I write about him in the book, he said, look, my family lived in Clayton County. They felt safe with that dude. He's like Robert.
Wow.
He said, if he was a bad cop, I would tell you.
Wow.
Leave him alone. The head guy who was over, he was a high-ranking member of the Vice Lords. I mean, I'm out on the yard with him, and he tells one of his soldiers, this is my guy. If anybody stepped to him, handle it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those guys took care of me, man. I can't deny that. And the fact that they honored me and took the time to figure out who I really was. And I'm not telling you, when I walked in, everybody was hugging me.
Right. It was organic.
Like that. It was a cold reception.
Mm-hmm.
And ATL came down. I don't know this guy from Adams Apple. At least I didn't know him then.
Yeah.
And he came in and looked at him. He said, hey, I'm ATL. I'm upstairs. He actually ran the unit upstairs. He said, I just came down here to see if it's true if you was here. I said, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
He said, okay, we'll talk. It was just that. I could tell he had some authority by the way he walked in, everybody was acting.
Yeah.
But that was one of the main dudes that was like, hey, leave that dude alone.
Okay.
So that's why I call community policing. They think community policing is crying and getting on a video and dancing.
Mm-mm.
I took care of this man's family. Didn't know I was taking care of his family.
Wow.
And then he took
that essentially saved your life.
I agree. I agree. Actually, being hard on crime saved my life.
Wow. I know they had to piss the people who had you sent to prison. They must have pissed them off because they thought they were sending you to your demise. And here you have opened up another chapter or another avenue to another degree of success.
Listen, man, I didn't even know a convicted felon could run for Congress. They told me that. These guys would have got me said, hey, they say to you because you can't, they make you convicted felon so you can't run. You can run for Congress. I was like, really?
What?
Right. And then we see it play out because the president runs and wins.
Right.
I think a lot of people didn't know. And they were the ones that told me, and they knew what they were talking about. And I was like, right. And they said, hey, you need to fight for us. So that goes back to what I was talking about. So I got two battles to fight, okay? The 5th Congressional District is the most crime-ridden district there is. And the people deserve to be safe. All the gun violence and everything.
Now, what district? Where is it? Give me some names. Look.
It's the north part of Clayton, the south part of DeKalb.
Okay.
The city of Atlanta.
Okay.
South Fulton.
Okay.
Right in the heart of where all the gun violence
That's a big area, man. That's a real big area.
Right. But at the same time, we got a criminal justice system that a lot of people get caught up in unnecessarily. Grand juries need to be reformed. If we just reform grand juries, that would cut down the jail population probably 30-40%, because not only they're indicting people without them being there, without their defense being there, but essentially they're indicting them on false charges. Let me tell you what I mean. Like, take, for instance, in Clayton County, where the coaches were coaching a track star and she collapsed and died. They indicted these coaches on murder. That's not murder. Come on.
Wow.
At best, that could be involuntary manslaughter, but it's not murder. So whatever they told a grand jury to get an indictment on murder, that's a lie right there. Okay. So there are people getting indicted that wouldn't get indicted if we reform it, or they wouldn't be getting indicted on the level of charges they're getting indicted on.
Right.
If we reform that.
Right.
We know about the plea deals. They put a plea gun to your head, and they make you plea and threaten you at more time. We know about mens rea or willful intent.
Right.
You know, they can convict you without proving that you had an intent to make a crime. They did it to me. I'm following policy and training, but I'm convicted of a crime.
Yeah.
If I'm following policy and training, where's the intent to commit a crime? We fix those three things there. It could stop a lot of people from even getting in the criminal justice system.
Gotcha.
Okay, now, once they're in the criminal justice system, should they be getting murdered like they are at the Clayton County Jail? Should they be getting gang raped like they're getting at the Clayton County Jail? Do they have to live in filth like I did when I was there, with black mold in the ceilings or whatever? They deserve to live in a clean, orderly place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not everyone that goes to prison is a killer. There's folks there for tax evasion. There's folks there for whatever, and they're prey while they're there.
Yeah.
Because if they're already weak, or if they don't have an alliance with a gang like I inadvertently did, who would ever thought that happened?
Yeah.
You know, who would ever think the vice lords would say, we wish you could join, but you don't qualify? Right. But if they don't have that, they become victims.
Right.
I mean, there was a guy who was literally a slave there. Every day he had to go, and, you know, their drug dealers, you was there, you know, their drug dealers there.
Yeah.
There was a drug lord in our section.
Wow.
And this guy couldn't pay him the money. So he had to clean this guy's room every day. Every time he went to the restroom, he had to go to the restroom and spray it and clean it for him and everything. He had to carry his commissary. It was modern life slavery, because this guy became addicted to drugs and no longer had the ability to pay him. Okay, well, guess what? For lack of a better term, you my bitch.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You got a job.
It wasn't that way.
Yeah.
It wasn't sexual.
Right.
That I know of. But, you know, that type of stuff was going on. So if you wasn't strong enough to defend yourself, and if you wasn't affiliated with a group of killers who everyone knew not to deal with, you pray.
Simple as that. You lunch meat. So the actual position that you're running for, what's it called?
I would be a United States representative.
Okay.
I was once a state representative, but now it would be a U.S. representative. So instead of going to the state capitol, I'd be going to the United States capitol.
Okay. And so when is the actual election, and who can act? I live in DeKalb County, but I'm a maybe 30 seconds away from Clayton County. Who can vote? Who do we need to notify?
Well, everybody that lives in that area, but let me tell you how you know for sure, because the way the district is drawn, it's so hard to say. If there's certain places that you at, I could pretty much say, okay, yeah, you're in the district. But if you go to my webpage, VictorHillForCongress.com,
okay,
you can actually, there's a section you scroll down to, you can type your address,
okay,
and it'll tell you if you're in the 5th Congressional District. So that way, there's no ambiguity. You know, hey, I can vote for it. And like I say, to give you a broad view again, North Clayton, South DeKalb, City of Atlanta, the cab going all the way up in the Druid Hills, South Fulton, Old National, all that area up in there. All of that pretty much encompasses the 5th Congressional District.
Gotcha. Okay, so people who've experienced living in the county that you've been in charge of, and they appreciated the peace that they had, and they want to contribute. How can they contribute to whatever movement that you have going on?
That same webpage, VictorHillForCongress.com,
okay,
has a donate button, and all donations are appreciated. There's no donation too small. This is an interesting fight because, you know, I used to represent one side of the spectrum.
Right.
I used to represent the citizens from criminal crimes.
Right.
Okay, but there's another side to that story. This is a yin yang race. Okay, you got folks now that are convicted felons, but they moved on with their lives. They're productive citizens like you and Gerald. Why do y'all have a lifetime sentence? Okay, if you serve your time, you paid your debt. Now you're raising a family,
right?
You're podcasting, you're doing great things in the community. So why can't all your rights be restored? Why can't you be a doctor or a lawyer if that's what you want to do?
Right.
Once your debt is paid to society, it should be paid. And so those are the type of things that the guys that I was locked up with want me to address. So there's a balance to this thing. I want the crime gone out the 5th Congressional District, but at the same time, one of the best ways to reduce that crime is to stop a person or give a person options to not return to a life of crime. You take all these options. Hey, you can't drive a tow truck. You can't.
Yeah.
Then why are you shocked when this guy does something criminal in order to support himself? We invite people to church and we tell them the Lord's going to forgive them all their sins, but we don't forgive folks all their sins. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
We're not practicing what we preach.
Right.
Okay, should crime have punishment? Yeah. Okay, but you done the punishment now. So now you got to wear this X on your forehead the rest of your life. That's not right.
That's crazy. Okay. Some people view you as controversial. Some people see you as misunderstood. To some people, you're a hero. How do you want to be remembered?
I think there's probably truth to all of it.
Okay.
I think there's truth to all of it. And I used to tell folks, when we would get a new staff in or new commanders or whatever, the most honest thing I could tell is this. I said, listen, you've probably heard a lot about me, and most of it's probably true. And I said, let me tell you why. I said, all of the people who said I was assholes, they were probably right. And all of the people that said I was a good guy, they were probably right. And I said, the reason I can tell you that is I'm a reflection. I'm a mirror. They really talk about themselves. The people who talk about what a great guy I am, they're great people. So I reciprocated. All the ones who are assholes, I just reciprocated. So they probably tell the truth. You get what I'm saying? Right. So I think I'm a reflection of whatever I'm dealing with at that particular time. Now, the only thing I can tell you that's not true, and I can say it unequivocally, is contrary to popular belief, I'm not a gangster. I wasn't a corrupt sheriff. I didn't abuse anybody. Those are lies.
Gotcha.
But everything else you probably heard, there's probably some measure of truth to it. One thing I've never claimed to be is a perfect man.
Okay.
The only, there's this perception that being politics, you got to be perfect. You got to have, a house with a white picket fence, 2.5 kids, never been to a strip club a day in your life,
right.
Whatever. And that's just not true. There's only one perfect man that walked the earth, and he's shown no indication or interest in coming back here to run for office.
Right.
All we got left is imperfect humans like me.
Gotcha.
And I'm running as an imperfect candidate. And I think that the fact that I've been exposed to both sides, from running in jail to being in prison, and exposed to growing up in a project, exposed to all of that stuff, makes me more relatable and more able to have common sense to what's really needed.
Gotcha. This is what I want to do while I got you online. Because I want to see if I can vote. What's the name of the website?
It's victorhillforcongress.com.
All right. I'm gonna put my address in.
Okay.
And I want to just make sure, and I need for everybody that's listening and looking to go to this website, put your address in, and see. All right, let's see what we got. I got primary election dates are published. Atlanta News First. Does this sit right here? It says Ballotopedia. What is that?
So it should look like this. I don't know if you see this here, but it should look like this. VictorHillForCongress.com. And then as you scroll down, let me see here. Okay, it says, do you live in a district? And then there's going to be a link. And it says, use the map to determine if you live in a district. And it says, click the link below the map and type in your address. So if you go to the part where it says, do you live in a district, there'll be a link. And then when you type in that address, you'll know.
Okay. I see the donate button at the top. And then I come down. Okay, you can fill out running history. Do you okay, live in this spin. Okay, fine. All right, so I know you just told me. So I'm at the do you live in the district? So I see find your member of Congress.
Right, hit that link right there.
All right. Now I see a page that says representatives and senators in Congress, gov track. Okay, so put your address. So I'm gonna put my address. I'm gonna hit that button right there. Georgia's fourth congressional district.
Oh man.
I'm out the district.
Man.
You know what that means? It means I gotta donate. I'm gonna have to donate some money.
Yeah. And contact all your friends in the district.
That's what I'm gonna do, man. Cause it's probably a neighbor, bro. It's probably a neighbor, but
it's
cool.
Just that close, no doubt.
So understand that my phone is on, man. However, I can assist. The evolution of Victor Hill, and just it's not, to me, it's not even the evolution. It's actually stopping and listening and talking to a man face to face, and not taking others people snapshot of them. It's just talking to a man. Just talk to him and see what's going on. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate your effort. I can't wait to see what you do next. The only thing I'm afraid of is that these people condemned you the way that they did and sent you to a place where you essentially were supposed to perish and die, and you came out stronger and more effective. Those people have not gone away. They have not gone away. But judging on your character, I don't really think you care. I don't think you care. Brother, I appreciate your time, man. I'm gonna put the link for everything in the description. Take care and congratulations on winning, cause I already feel it's gonna happen.
I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for having me.
All right, man.
It's an honor.
All right, brother. Take it easy.
You got it.
All right.